capital improvements. So to spend a little bit of time here, this gives you the historical perspective of how capital funding has flowed through prior budgets. Last year's and this year's, I've added that green bar of using applied fund balance instead of paying for projects. I guess the language was paying for it out of cash outside of the budget process. We started last year by making it part of the budget process and recognizing the use of fund balance as a revenue. So looking at last year, 1.35 million was set aside for capital. Of that, 825,000 was coming from fund balance, leaving 39% to be funded by tax dollars. This year, the total proposed spend is a little over 3 million, with close to 2.3 coming out of fund balance, leaving 26 to be spent for or supported by tax dollars. But again, as I've noted already, we need to have a good conversation around some of those capital expense revenue. So this is a little bit more important here. Applied fund balance is significantly larger than it was as a percent of the total revenue pie last year, based on the amount that's being used on the capital side. State aid is assumed at this point to be reducing, again, with that ECS reduction. If that comes out to be level funded, then you'll adjust the sizes of the pieces of the pie. The permit and fee revenue is coming back compared to last year, and all of that changes the size of the pie for what needs to be supported by tax dollars. This is what I'm giving you here requires a little bit of an explanation and a desire to understand that I'm trying to put together an honest budget. I know there is this desire to look at the budget as a pure game of percentages, of which it's not, and the percentages that are being looked at are the rivalry between the town and Board of Ed, as opposed to trying to look at the real driver, which is the mill rate and what the taxpayer has to focus on. So I've given you two sample budgets to look at. The one on the left with the $59 million bottom line, that's the budget as proposed. That's running all capital expenses, those financed by taxation and those financed by cash or fund balance, through the budget as we did last year. The one on the right simply extracts the cost that's to be covered by fund balance, as was the practice in the past of financing things as a separate action rather than through the budget. The bottom line of the spend changes, and if you want to play a game of percentages from an optics standpoint, the column on the right looks better visually. However, you're still spending the same amount of money. It's just one process before referendum and the other process outside of the budget. However, you're not really changing the mill rate. Total expenditures may be different, but your revenue stream is also upset, which then really does not budge the mill rate in any way, shape, or form.